This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. It has finally happened. After years of talking about it, the government is trying to take over the Teamsters Union. There are 1.7 million Teamsters. When the government filed a civil suit in New York today seeking to get control of the union, it said that union members have been deprived of their rights because of the link between the union's leadership and organized crime. The U.S. attorney said, "We want control taken back from the mafia." Our first report is from ABC's John McKenzie.
Pulling together court cases from across the country, the government today detailed just how the mafia had taken control of the Teamsters Union.
Through a pattern of racketeering that includes 20 murders, including at least 14 murders of dissidents, a number of shootings, bombings, beatings, a campaign of fear, bribes, extortion and theft, and misuse of union funds.
The government today charged the 26 alleged major mafia figures engaged in a conspiracy to control the union with 18 Teamsters officials, including President Jackie Presser. And the government went even further in its attempt to clean up the Teamsters. It's asking a federal judge to remove from office any union officer convicted of federal racketeering charges, and to appoint a trustee to discipline union locals, and to oversee free and fair elections to the Teamsters governing board.
We are not seeking overall control of the Teamsters Union. This is a use of the racketeering statute in a surgical way to attempt to take back from the mafia the Teamsters Union.
The Teamsters executive meeting in Montreal denied the union was controlled by organized crime and charged this suit was an attempt to destroy the union.
History will record that the complaint against the International Brothers of Teamsters marks the lowest point to which the Republican administration has yet fallen in the attack on working men and women of America.
The AFL-CIO deplored the action, and some members in Congress complained the government should not be going after a whole union for the actions of a few locals.
I think it's the wrong thing. It's the wrong precedent. It's the wrong thing for government to do. It's the type of thing you expect in wrestling.
It is, in fact, designed to give the members of the Teamsters what they deserve, and that is a union that represents them rather than organized crime.
Government officials say the Teamsters should be in trusteeship only for as long as it takes to reform the union and rid it of mafia influence. That, however, could take years. John McKenzie, ABC News, New York.
The government's battle with the Teamster bosses has been going on and off for decades. Even so, today's action against them is the most dramatic move since the McClellan Committee hearings put Jimmy Hoffa on the spot back in the 1950s. ABC's James Walker has a background report.
The federal government's first major investigation of the Teamsters was in 1957.
Did you say that SOB, I'll break his back?
Who?
You.
Say to who?
To anyone. Did you make that statement after these people testified before the committee? Well, whose back were you going to break, Mr. Hoffa?
They give his speech. I don't even know who I was talking about, and I don't know what you're talking about. Ever since those hearings, the government has been trying to learn if a tie in fact exists between organized crime and the Teamsters Union, the largest union in the non-communist world, which has traditionally been made up of the nation's truck drivers.
A union like the Teamsters enables the mafia, which is primarily, but not completely based in New York, to exert an influence nationwide on the transportation and the provision of goods that end up, for example, on supermarket shelves in different parts of the country.
In fact, Harmon suggested to the Justice Department in 1986 that the federal government should take control of the union. That same year, the feds did take over New Jersey Teamsters Local 560. For 26 years, 560 had been controlled by Anthony Provenzano, a reputed member of the Vito Genovese crime family, and his two brothers, Salvatore and Nunzio. All three have served federal prison sentences for crimes committed while they ran the local.
Local 560 had more to do with Murder Incorporated than it had to do with honest unionism.
Corruption and violence has pervaded the union for decades. In 1957, Dave Beck was jailed for tax evasion. Jimmy Hoffa, jailed in 1967 for jury tampering, pardoned in 1971. He disappeared in 1975 and is presumed the victim of a gangland murder. Frank Fitzsimmons, named in 1978 in a lawsuit charging massive mismanagement of a pension fund. Roy Williams, now in jail after a 1982 conviction for trying to bribe a U.S. senator. And in 1986, Teamsters President Jackie Presser and two associates were charged with embezzling more than $700,000 from this Teamsters local in Cleveland. In the past, Teamsters officials vigorously denied ties to organized crime, except in 1985 when former union President Roy Williams openly acknowledged mafia influence.
They were here a long time before I got here, and they keep getting stronger all the time.
So strong, in fact, the U.S. government finally decided today that the only way to try to stop the apparent corruption was to take control of the union. James Walker, ABC News, New York.